Hi there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Cloud-Based Mayhem. Before I get into this one today, round two with one of my favorite guys out there, Benjamin Kellett, pure wanderer from New Zealand, just getting after it, making awesome videos, traveling the world, and flying and doing tandems and just awesome adventures. He gets the adventure of the year, if you ask me. But before we get to that, just wanted to say a quick bit about this new format. We released it in the last show with Chris Hollum down in his stories about Patagonia and SIV and everything. And people are pretty jazzed about listening to that. Most people didn't have any trouble accessing that subscriber content, but some people did, and it's taken us some work in the back end to make sure the database is all aligned between Patreon. So if you support in any way, and if you've ever supported, and that means you've bought a book or bought a t-shirt or any kind of swag, or you've been a supporter in the past, whatever way you've done it, you should have a lifetime account. I've set that up for you, but there's glitches, of course, and so it's taken me some manual labor to get that all straightened out. We had the website crash at one point, so if you've had any trouble, or if you're still having any trouble, please just reach out. As always, this wasn't meant to create any headaches or put anything behind a paywall. We will never ever do that, and we will never have advertising. This will always be free, and nothing will ever be behind a paywall. All we've asked for is $1 a show, so if you can support it, it goes a long ways to making this possible. We're 12 years and running now, and there are a ton of expenses to make this all come to life. So we appreciate you if you can, and if you can't, again, just send me an email, no questions asked, and we'll get you all set up. The preferred platform you can see on the website now when you go to the subscription or the donation page or your login page is definitely Patreon. The fees there are a lot less. So if you have supported in the past through PayPal or Stripe or whatever through the website, if you switch over, you get a 10% discount. If you do an annual one, you can just kind of set it and forget it. Patreon is cleaner, but those Patreon memberships do have to be brought in manually. We're writing scripts and dealing with that. We can make that much more automated in the future. We will get there. So I just appreciate your patience. I know switches and changes are tricky. You can get the podcast, that subscription channel, which is the full length of these shows, on a number of different podcast apps, a ton of them. Apple Podcasts, and there's a ton for Android, Overcast, and there's a bunch. But a couple don't work, like YouTube Music and Spotify. Those may work in the future, but that's a whole back-end thing. So they don't right now. The free show, quote-unquote free show, the shorter version is available on everything, as it always has been. But the subscription channel, you have to put in a URL for that feed and then sign in like you do for the website. So it's a couple steps. I know that's a pain, but most of you are figuring it all out, and we'll get you all set up. So again, thank you for your patience and making this go. It does seem to be working a lot better, which is great. So Ben Kellett, we've had him on the show before. He puts out amazing videos. Most of you, I'm sure, know who he is and follows his stuff. He just does amazing stuff from the air and on the ground, and his bivvy adventures around the world in the Karakorum and across the Himalaya in Europe. And he's got quite a cool yearly migration that he does, from doing tandems in Switzerland in the summer and Interlaken, and then down in Queenstown in their summer in New Zealand, and in between he just does these amazing adventures all over the place. And so we talk about high altitude challenges and gear stuff and how he films and the business side of that and the business side of tandems and staying passionate. And what I mostly love about Ben is just his approach. It's really all about the adventure and the aesthetic, and not at all about the numbers and the records. And he sends big flights, don't get me wrong, but that's not his mission, is adding things up on X contests. It's just doing the coolest thing that's available on the day. So a ton of great stuff here, just fabulous learning and super inspiring. And we've had a lot of recommendations and requests to get Ben back on the show. So here you go, Benjamin Kellett, take 2. Cheers. Ben, I'm calling this Ben Take Two. We've had a few people reach out and say, "Hey, you got to get Ben back on the show. He's been doing all kinds of cool stuff." And we're all addicted to your amazing videos. Let's start there. We both think it's been about 3 years. I didn't actually look that up. I think it has been about 3 years since the last time we chatted, and I was hoping to see you over here in Monroe in Utah. We'll talk about that at some point here too, but make this part of your stops. But tell me about you just said this is kind of your itinerary you've been doing the last 3 years, and I didn't know you were doing the tandem rat thing there in Interlaken where you are right now. So yeah, let's catch us up to speed. But also, what is your kind of yearly migration? You're kind of a bird.
Yeah. Hey, thanks heaps for having me back, Gavin. It's an honor as always, and yeah, thank you so much, and yeah, for what you're doing. I think it's awesome, really cool. Yeah, so I've been doing the tandems. I've been flying tandems for like 6 years now, and I've been coming to Europe for the tandem season and the off season of New Zealand for the last 3 years. So I do the summers in Lauterbrunnen, just south of Interlaken. And yeah, it's great. Like so I migrate each year, and I typically what I do is the summer in New Zealand, and then in the spring I'll go to northern India, somewhere in the Himalaya, and have a month of solo flying. Then I'll go to Europe and do the summer season in Europe, and then I go back to the Himalaya in the autumn, and then back to New Zealand again. And that's kind of my schedule. The last few years I've been squeezing in trips inside the European season because I've had time constraints on how much time I'm allowed to spend inside of the Schengen area thanks to Brexit, because I'm British. And yeah, so I did some trips to Pakistan in the middle. I went to Canada and did some Volbiv up there. And yeah, but that's kind of my schedule. New Zealand, Himalaya, Europe, Himalaya, New Zealand. Yeah, it's nice. Good fun.
From the outside, that just sounds magical. Or is it hard to balance the tandem slash personal flying? We were talking about how good the weather's been in Europe this season and how much FOMO I've had watching X contest has just been cruel to me this year. Every time I get on there, Eduard's doing another big one. It's just been insane. It's been an incredible season. It was April and then it was May, and it just doesn't seem to give it up. It's giving it up every day actually, but it doesn't seem to stop. How do you just ignore those days when you're flying tandems and go, okay, I just can't do it, or is tandems enough fun that it doesn't bother you?
It depends where I am actually. Where I'm working in Lauterbrunnen, I'm not so bothered by it. And it also depends on what type of client you get. Fortunately, where we are, the flying's really good. And we're right next to the Jungfrau and the Eiger and the Monk. So if you get the right passenger and it's a great cross country day, then it's actually super enjoyable. You can take them up to 4,000 meters and fly over the glacier, and it's pretty good fun. I struggle more when I'm working in New Zealand because it just holds too close to my heart. So if you ever, and there's not as many epic flying days there. So if it's a good cross country day, then I want to go and do my thing and fly in the backcountry, which obviously you can't do with the client. We fly close to the town, but here I seem to struggle less with it because you can have some really magical flights on the tandem, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, also when I'm in Switzerland, I kind of have my head down a little bit more just because it financially makes more sense to me to work a little bit more here, and then when I go to New Zealand, I can just take more days off. Also, the way that the schedule works for me, I have a lot more flexibility in New Zealand. I can sign out a lot easier at short notice. So if I see a good day coming up, then I can just not go and fly tandem, and I can just go and fly solo, which is pretty cool. Like, it's kind of unique actually. There's not many tandem gigs like that where they just let you take the day off at such short notice, which is, yeah, we're super fortunate. But yeah, here I don't struggle too much because when you get the right client at the end of the day and you fly them over the Jungfrau, it's super fun.
What is your kind of jam these days? You put out these amazing videos. It seems like you're really into the bivy. What keeps you super stoked to keep up this yearly migration? I mean, it's pretty intense. You're doing a ton of airtime. What is it that you really keeps you jazzed?
Yeah, it's interesting, because I think we all go through like waves of motivation and like what drives you. And I often ask myself that question, like, what do I want to do, and what is the goal, and what is the objective? And what I've found over the years is just not to set myself crazy objectives that like I want to fly this amount of distance, or I want to do this number, or it's more for me about exploring and seeing areas in a unique way that and bivvy flying and just seeing the world, and experiencing places and just getting in the air for the experience rather than chasing big numbers. I mean, like moving and migrating around the world like that, it's can be quite intense, I guess, because you're constantly on the move. But not having a wife and kids helps, I guess, because that would be quite challenging trying to move a family around like that. So that does make it easier. But yeah, like more and more now, I fly for the experience and exploration rather than like trying to chase distance. And don't get me wrong, like, and we all are a little bit like this. I think we always want to feel like we're making some sort of progression, and that progression keeps me engaged. So if I can fly a bit further than I did the year before, and I can do a bit of a bigger flight, and I feel like I'm still improving, then that also gives me motivation. But I'm not hell bent on it, like I'm not like I have to fly a 300k this year, and I'm a classic for flying 199ks or 299. Like I always miss it, and yeah. So I don't really care too much about it, but it's nice to progress. Yeah.
Mm. Mm. What's changed for you since last we talked? I know that's kind of a loaded question, a lot, but let's start with some simple stuff. Your gear, that you make these awesome films with. We talked about it last time, how good your audio is and stuff. If you upgraded there, you still doing the same thing? Is the objective still the same? What have you changed with? Let's just start there. What have you changed with filming? What have you changed with trying to kind of bring your experiences to the outside world, which you do a very good job of?
I think mostly what I've done is actually draw it back, and not allow the filming to really disrupt the experience too much. So there did become a point where like I was like hanging like multiple cameras off me and trying to film every moment and stuff, and it just became too much. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, I'm doing this for the fun of it, and I like making videos to share the experience. But if it's really depleting the experience by making it uncomfortable to fly and having to fly with heavy batteries and hang cameras off, which make it awkward, then what's the point? So I think at some point I sort of said to myself, just bring it back, just keep it simple, where I just use a head cam, and I every now and again I pull out a selfie stick. But if I'm not feeling up to it, then I just don't pull the selfie stick out, and I just roll with the head cam. I just keep it simple. And I played a lot around with all sorts of different types of, like the 360 cameras and things like that. And yeah, they can pull out some really cool images, but you have to find, I felt like I needed to find a compromise between simplicity and something that produces a really nice image. And I can do super complicated and shoot in log and with ND filters or in 360 cameras and all this stuff, and it makes really beautiful images, but it takes a hell of a lot of effort to produce something out of it. So it has to be simple. For the videography side, with recording with the audio, I think I've more or less been running the same thing for years now, and since that hasn't actually changed since we spoke last. It's really basic. I just have a GoPro with it has a microphone adapter, and I run a hardwired mic, just like a lapel mic that just goes down the helmet and sits next to the chin, with a dead cat on it. So it's just wired into the GoPro, so it's all attached to the video already. I'm not running like a separate audio and video track. And it works 95% of the time. Sometimes it doesn't work and it's not plugged in correctly, or the microphone breaks, or the adapter breaks. But most of the time it works pretty well. Yeah.
I'll have to tap back into you well in advance of the next X Alps because I continue to, yeah, I don't do it as much as you do, and typically when I'm just normal flying, I'm not doing any. And so, I have some pretty complicated amount of kit because of the organizational side. So I'm filming with my phone on this awkward arm and the whole thing. But I'm hoping I can change that more to a DJI or a GoPro with but man, the mics and the amount of lines and lanyards and Jesus, it adds up, and it's already you're already kind of racing and huffing and puffing, and it's a lot. I have to constantly remind myself, hey man, you're just filming. Don't kill yourself because of this.
Yep.
It's a
No,
lot.
it looks tough, eh? And then you've also got to battle the connectivity and live
Oh,
streaming from up there, and
I was
it's
flying with a
yeah.
Starlink in my lap. It was, and that
Oh,
didn't work.
really?
I gave that. I tried that in the prologue. It didn't work. It got too hot. Actually, I thought I was going to blow up. It's
I
amazing
can
when
imagine a
that thing
lithium battery
struggles for.
fire.
Yeah, oh man, I'm surrounded by plastic. This is a really bad idea. Yeah, but yes, I don't think we'll do that anymore. It was great having the Starlink just on the run because that was always one
Mm,
of our. You think, oh, it's the Alps, it's great service, but just getting data out, just getting stuff out was brutal. And if
mm.
you don't get it out in the first few hours, it's worthless. Then it's old news and done. Yeah, it's. I was watching Ben Hodgson during the X period and really feeling for them. They were having to pack their gear in ice, and my God, that looked brutal. So
Wow,
hot.
wow. Oh, there was like a heat was like 40 degrees. Like I spoke to some of the guys that
Yeah,
came back
every
from it
day it just
afterwards.
was
Wow.
unrelentless. Great flying. It looked like great flying, but
Yeah,
it looked really hot. Yeah, you wouldn't want to be on the
yeah.
ground too. Okay, throw a dart at the board, pick an adventure. You've been doing beer, I think, a couple times a year,
Yep.
Karakorum. You mentioned Canada and some character building. Let's talk adventure for a while.
Yeah, sure. So, just been trying to go to destinations for bivouac flying where I can sort of go on a bit of an adventure. Like I'm used to flying the backcountry in New Zealand, so I'm not, adverse to gambling a few days walking for a bit of excitement to fly somewhere spectacular. So yeah, I did a couple of trips to the Karakorum in Pakistan, which was it's an insane place. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen some of the videos from the people that have gone there. It's a really special part of the world and incredible people, and the flying is really unique because of the scale of the place and the size of the mountains. You're flying at high altitude, and we can see, and a few of us have been saying it for years that this big 400k triangle is going to go down at some point, and Antoine's done it, and hats off to him. Like that is
Mm,
but when you go and fly there, you'll understand that that will be the world record, and if you want to go and beat it, you have to go to Pakistan. I mean, maybe there's a few other countries it could be possible, like Tajikistan, maybe it's close, but if you're flying at 6,000-7,000 meters all day, you feel like you've got a tailwind in every direction. Like
mm.
it's really crazy. I mean, it's a different kettle of fish to flying, in the southern French Alps. There's not a road in every valley, and you have to have a different mindset. The air is different. It's definitely a full-on place to fly. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty impressive, and yeah, so that was incredible. So did some bivouac flying there,
What
and
kind of Ben?
just
What kind of stamina? Comparing. We all know Antoine is just hard as a rock. That guy is just nothing bothers him. It's incredible how much he's willing to take on with a smile. But what kind of stamina did that take? Was it 11 and a half hour flight?
mm,
You're like you said, it's very thin air. So your speeds are much higher. Even I'm imagining he was. What did he fly on? I'm imagining he was on more of hike and fly kit than comp kit, right? Yeah, yeah. So like Aaron did, fly. I think Aaron was on his Omega when he was there flying that one. But what does that take in terms of just the mental toughness? Because like you said, there's big areas where landing out would be astonishingly bad, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you can't just turn up and then the next day just go knock out an 11-hour flight in the Karakorum. It just doesn't work like that. You have to spend time acclimatizing, which is what Antoine and Vesso have done. Is they've gone and they've spent 2 weeks, flying up, landing at sort of 4,000 meters, sleeping, going down, going back up again, and really acclimatizing because the it's I think I mean this because you fly in really big air in Idaho, but the oxygen systems are just not they're just not reliable enough to do 11 hours. I don't think you'd need multiple tanks, and then if you do land somewhere stupid, then you've got these oxygen tanks you've got to carry out. So for bivouac flying, it doesn't make any sense.
Mm.
So you have to acclimatize because, and then all day you're battling that because you want to be high because the air's thin and you fly faster, but at the end of the day you feel terrible when you're at 7,000 meters. Even if you've made some acclimatization, it's still really uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And
you're
then you've
well
got
into
all
the
of
death
the
zone there, and you're just cooking
yeah
your
yeah
brain.
exactly. It's not a great feeling, and then you've got the normal endurance of any long cross country flight, plus you have these huge temperature differences because you taking off at like 3,000 meters and you're flying up to 7, so that could be a 30-degree temperature change. And I think that these guys were saying it was like minus 15 that day. So I mean, and when you're taking off, it's really hot as well, so you've got this huge variance, and it sounds like they had to go around some pretty serious rain showers, which can be particularly scary there in the Karakorum because you're close to the tropopause. The the rate in which these thunderstorm clouds develop is a lot faster because it just whacks into that inversion and then just spreads out. And when you get these rain showers there, it really rips through the valleys. It's like not a really fun place to be. So yeah, it's just everything on the extreme, plus having to deal with the altitude. And I was flying there mostly. I was there in the July both times, and yeah, it's turbulent. It's definitely more turbulent than I'd say than the Alps. It's mountain flying, yeah, but I think it's the other factors that really just compound to make it a challenging place to fly, where you have this problem with the altitude and the overdevelopment speed and things like that, and then also the walk out. Like if you land in the wrong place, not only do you have to be willing to walk for several days, but you have to be quite a competent mountain person, able to
Mm.
operate at altitude and having all the equipment to do that. And then on top of that, we don't have Rhaegar. Rhaegar's not knocking around in Pakistan. Like the helicopter rescue there is fairly limited. They can get military helicopters to rescue. You would take like a minimum, I think, of 24 hours to get anything anywhere, and they need a proper landing place. Like they don't have like winching capabilities. Like if you went in on the side of a cliff or something, then you're relying on people to go up with a stretcher and bring you down. So they need a clear landing area, and they want you to like move all the rocks away and stuff. So rescue is definitely an issue there too. So yeah, it's not the Swiss Alps, but it is beautiful and a really wonderful part of the world.
What was it quite intimidating going for your first time? Imagine it's one of these things where, "Ugh, what are we signing up for here?"
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's I just approached it and I just really increased my margin. And like there's times when you're flying your home site and you're happy to sort of push a little harder because you know what it's like. And I think when I was flying in Pakistan, I just sort of took it a bit easier. I had some really cool flights, and I reminded myself, like, I'm not here to prove anything. I'm an aerial tourist. I want to do some sightseeing. I want to go fly next to the glaciers, and if it's not the day, it's not the day. Like and that's kind of like the attitude that I take into most of my flying, is that like I'm not trying to do like world firsts and break records, and like I like to fly as far as I can sometimes, but like I'm not at any cost. So if I think it's a bad day, and this is what I did in Pakistan, I just sort of increased that margin even more and just went, oh well, I'm not sure, I don't understand what's going on, and if I don't understand what's going on, then I'm happy to just go and land and save it for tomorrow.
Mm. Is one of the factors, I mean, one of the things that really shone a light for me was a couple years ago at the World Cup when I was meet directing, and you have to factor this whole thing that you've got people at 17,000 feet. and potential gust fronts coming through. If you push that too far, it's going to take some time for people to get to the ground. They've got to get down
Yeah.
10,000 feet,
Yeah.
on a comp glider, which takes some time. You've got to factor that time in. Is that a big thing there? I mean, to me, this is always one of the things flying here when you're flying really high, especially if you're flying without O2, you're compromised, you're trying to build in that margin. You're not thinking very clearly, you're cold. There's all these things.
Mm.
But that's one of them, is that, okay, that thing's going pretty vertical. I need a lot more time than I'm typically, in the Alps, you just go land, often just top land at a cafe. That you can get out of the sky typically pretty quickly. It's a remarkably good day to be even 1,000 feet over the top of the peaks. That whereas here you're often way tall. Is that? I mean, I imagine that's one of the factors there. Also, you can't just go land. Well, that's a glacier. You're not going to land on a glacier.
No, absolutely. It's like you said, like if you're at 7,000 meters and you want to go and land down in the valley, you've got to descend, 5,000 meters. So you're not going to just spiral down 5,000 meters. Like you just can't, it just takes too long. So you have to really anticipate it. And you have like I just call it like a green belt of altitude where they do most of the grazing around 4,000 meters. So in certain places, you could land at 4,000, but yeah, it's not landable everywhere. It's lots of jagged snow-covered peaks and cliffs in a lot of spots. But yeah, that's kind of like you just have to give yourself a bit bigger margin. And you know what? Like there was a couple of times where I thought it was going to explode, and I went and landed, and then it didn't, and I was like, oh, I could have kept flying, but I'd be happy to make that mistake in that direction 10 times and not make it once in the wrong direction,
Man, you get that
and it's
wrong,
just,
that's an uncomfortable day.
yeah, exactly, and look, I don't want to put people off going there. It's a beautiful place to go. The people are amazing. The flying's incredible. You just have to go in there with your eyes open and understand that it's not the Alps, and the rescue is more challenging, and maybe you just change what time of year you go. Maybe go more in the end of the season when things start calming down and it's more manageable. But the flying there is amazing. The people are great, and yeah, I think a lot of people should go and visit at some point. And maybe now Antoine's done this, is going to encourage a few people to go out. Maybe for the wrong reason, in my opinion, but at least
Yeah, I don't
they might be
know.
able to
Maybe they
see
should
it.
leave that alone. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's Antoine. He's special. How are you dealing with oxygen there? You just rock up at a welding shop, or can you get O2?
Yeah, exactly. There's a welders. So there's a couple. I think there's a couple of oxygen systems knocking around in Hunza that you can sometimes get your hand on. But otherwise, I just sort of brought my own, and then
So
you
you're
just
bringing
get
a
it filled up at the
transfiller
welding
and
shop.
everything?
Yeah, but the guys at the welding shop are actually pretty good. They seem to actually have all of the attachments to get it filled up. But it also does depend on like what bottle, like how much they've got, because I mean, you probably know this, but they will line them up in series, and
Yeah.
you can only get it as full as the bottle that they have is full. So sometimes you can only get it half full, and
Yeah.
then it's only good for like 5 hours. So what we were doing was, because it's probably have the same systems. It's like the on-demand pulse.
Yep.
So what I was doing was just because they automatically start giving you O2 at I think like 10,000 feet or something, but you're
Yep.
taking off at that altitude. So and
Yeah.
you're acclimatized to that level anyway. So there's no point in receiving any oxygen then. So what I was doing was just removing the cannula and pulling it further down. And then just flying. And then once I got to sort of 5,500 meters, or I started feeling a bit funky or whatever, then I just shove the cannula in and take a couple of gulps, and but if I drop down to the lower altitude again, then I would just pull it out. But to be honest with you, the best thing I think for there is if you, because you can't, no one's going there for like a week or two. If you're going to go, because the travel times are just so extreme, then you're better off just actually spending the time acclimatizing and just sleeping at altitude. I think it's safer. If you're doing a cross country flight there and you're planning on landing back in the valley at the end of the day, then for sure taking some oxygen is going to make you have better decisions. It's going to keep you warmer, and it's definitely worth it. But the majority of the flying that I was doing when I was there was bivvy flying, and then the oxygen's kind of just a bit of a burden, to be honest.
Mm. I always find the cannula thing, if I pull it out, then I can't keep it back in when I want, it's already stretched it too much or whatever. You're just, my advice for oxygen is don't go the first time and expect it all to work. It's one of these
Hmm.
things like anything like a P tube, it takes
Yep.
practice. It's always a bit of it's an added layer. Like the 10,000 thing, my workaround for that is I keep the controller in a really easily accessible place. I just turn it off and on.
I see.
'Cause
Yeah.
otherwise if it's on and you're not using it, then it reminds you, it's constantly telling you to breathe because you haven't breathed in a while. So you're getting that beep all the time. If you're in a place like Pakistan, you don't want to be taking your gloves off and it's too cold. And it's always something.
Yeah, I think maybe my system's different, but mine's like the regulator's on the bottle, and then I put the bottle in the back of the
Oh,
harness, so I
yeah.
can't
Okay. You
actually
can't do
adjust
it.
it. I think
Gotcha.
like there's better systems where you actually have like a control box that you can sit probably close to your cockpit. But I've got a cheaper Chinese version.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I have the control box one, and it's just a little switch. You can just turn it off or turn it back on. But what I'm noticing now is a lot of folks are flying with two tanks. They've got a two tank
Mm.
system. But man, that's for hiking that gets pretty unwieldy. It's not much fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it can be a bit much, but yeah, it's a beautiful part of the world, and I'm a little sad that I didn't go back this year, but you can't be everywhere.
Yeah, that's true. Tell me about character building in Canada. When were you? I forgot that I saw some of the stuff from that, but I can't remember when you were there and what were you doing? What was the mission?
Just a classic, aerial exploration, being a tourist, and
Okay, thanks for listening to this point. If you want to listen to the rest of this show with Benjamin Kellett, jump on over to our subscriber channel. You can get that on almost all of the podcast apps. It's not available on Google Music or sorry, YouTube Music or Spotify, but hopefully it will be shortly. But it's on Pocket Cast and Castbox, Player FM, Podcast Republic, AntennaPod, Apple Podcasts, Overcast. And if you want to see how to do that, you just take the URL feed for the subscriber channel. You'll find that on the website. Go to the website under podcast, under subscriber content. It has instructions on how to do all this. You should have a lifetime account if you've ever supported the show through Patreon or through the website or bought anything on the website or handed me $100 on launch or whatever it is. You should have a lifetime account. If you don't, no questions asked. I'll get you set up. Just send me an email. We'll get you all set up and you can listen to these shows as you've always done. You only need to set it up once, then it's done, ready to go. Thanks for listening. Thanks for your support. Appreciate you. Cheers.